I am a law professor at Seton Hall University Law School, and I am the co-chair of the sports and entertainment practice at Shoemaker, Lupin Kendrick, a law firm that goes by Shoemaker. And I've also represented NFL coaches, and I've done an NFL head coaching search on the inside. So this is both my scholarly and professional interest. Uh,
Sounds like it's your hobby too.
it's a good hobby too, and also my firm does represent some coaches in the NFL.
Okay, great. So you are the guy to talk to about this. Bob, this is huge news for us down here in Dallas. Whatever is going on behind the doors with Jerry Jones and Coach McCarthy, and what, if anything, is going to be made of that position moving forward. First and foremost, what do you make of all of this?
I'm a little surprised that it lasted so long because there is value in being early to the marketplace to conduct interviews, particularly now that some particularly appealing candidates are already gone, theoretically.
And so, what kind of challenges does that pose for Jerry Jones and the organization moving forward to find a head coach that can, do what we all want, which is win a Super Bowl?
It's a preeminent job. Let's start with that. Even though there are people negating that or saying maybe it isn't, this is a job that coaches dream of, and there will be coaches who will be interested in it. It comes with some downsides. It comes obviously with the influence of maybe the NFL's most important person, Jerry Jones, starting right there. So the idea that his influence is a known unknown if you're not in the building and haven't done that. So that may scare some people off. The other thing that you have to do, and you're late to do it, is Rooney compliance. You have to interview two external minority or diverse candidates before you can make a hire. So if Deion Sanders' interview is complete, that's one. You'll need another before you can make a hire. And it's just harder to make a deal this later in the game. And also you're racing to put together staffs.
You talk about Deion Sanders and you bring him up, and that's an interesting person to bring up because down here we're all talking about, who could possibly fill this role, and that name comes up. But then soon after the name comes up, Bob, people say, but no way he fits the Jerry Jones model, right? So behind the scenes, what is a guy like Jerry Jones looking for in his next coach? Because again, as we've seen, he's president, he's GM, he's everything down there. What do you think they're thinking about when they're thinking about the ideal candidate for them? Because it may not be the fans might love this, but administratively, that may not be the guy.
I would be a far more interesting person if I could actually read Jerry or channel Jerry Jones's thoughts. So I won't engage in that. I do think that Jerry Jones thinks a lot like Dion, that football is showmanship at all times, and probably more about that and motivating players to excellence than necessarily building a team through a talent evaluation system or a management system. So I do think that I'm surprised by the negativity surrounding Dion's fit here to a degree. On the other hand, there is a concern from everybody about who does sort of fit in this model. So it's a complex situation, but if you think about it, at least on the surface level, that somebody who wants to be as part of Showtime all the time, in both in the owner's suite and on the field, there's a perfect match there, at least that way.
Let me throw another name out there for you because this one's gone around a little bit. Jason Witten, Mr. Cowboy himself. He's been coaching high school football around here.
He's certainly an experienced coach, certainly somebody who may fit the mold. The question you have, obviously, don't have to question Jason Witten's NFL bona fides. He spent 15 years in the league, came back and played successfully. But I do think you have to wonder, is he up to the aspects of personnel management, team management, and salary management that we need to have. You don't want a coach who isn't heard from, even in a model like the Jones model, where Steven and Jerry are clearly at the top and running the team. You want a coach who adds to that. And I think back to the old days of Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones when they were the most effective team in the business.
So, what is happening behind closed doors right now? This is what we're all talking about on the front side of the door. What actually goes on right now? I mean, what do you think the moves are that are taking place right now? What are those moves?
I think two things are happening probably, and they're sort of opposite. You're trying to schedule interviews and do background checks on coaches. You're trying to figure out who you want to bring in an interview, because some of the interview process is to learn about what you need to know and what you don't already know. The approach in Dallas, they've had a winning record. McCarthy was certainly successful. but not successful in reaching the promised land of the Super Bowl. So I think you want to find out what you need to know to get there from interview candidates. So preparing your interviews, but also preparing the candidates to know that they have the skill set to carry this team forward. You really can't just give the job to anybody.
At the top of this conversation, you made a point that I'd like to revisit. Troy Aikman was the one that talked about this position really not being the coveted position that it once was, or that some people believe it to be. But you're saying for some coaches out there, it is still very much that, right?
Bill Parcells named his daughter Dallas. There was purpose in that, and I don't know anybody who was a stronger personality who still wanted that job. So clearly, there are coaches that I've encountered out there who wouldn't take interviews in other places, but if it was Dallas, they will certainly talk. So the Cowboys are a brand that is a brand apart, if you will.
Does that speak to the power of the brand, to the legacy, to Jerry Jones?
To all three, really. Jerry Jones is one of the unique figures, and he certainly started with a great brand. Not hard to start with America's team and make it better, but I think he's shown every NFL team how to make money, how to develop ancillary revenue, and how to extend that brand.
Timeline wise, how soon before we can start hearing some viable names for that position, actual candidates, not just wish list names?
Right now, because of the prohibition with teams actually in the playoffs, that may be a complicating factor. So if you've locked on to somebody or a candidate that you'd really like to have whose team is playing, you may be slow to interview him. So this may go on a while. That also hinders your ability to put together a staff of assistant coaches too in that format. So it's difficult. I think you would want to hear that you've completed the Rooney compliance interviews at least and have some candidates that you're bringing in. We're hearing a lot more about this happening in public. I don't know. That's a double-edged sword. It allows your fans to know, but it also allows your fans and your players to become negative about this too. So while teams are putting out who they're interviewing everywhere, I'm not sure that that's exactly how you want to do this business.
We've got coaches making all kind of noise like McDaniels down in Miami, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and there's a few others in there, but those are the two I think right now. When you talk about unconventional coaches, right? A style in which the NFL hasn't necessarily embraced until recently. What does that say about generationally where the head coaching space is within the NFL? It seems like the league is a lot more open to that unconventional head coach versus the Tom Landry type, right?
Yeah, the Tom Landrys and Vince Lombardis who were sort of authoritarian leaders of their organization from the top down and very buttoned up are probably a little less relatable to players today and maybe a little less effective in reaching them. I don't think there's a single model of what a coach can be effective and be. So I think there are lots of ones. I think the key is to be authentic. And certainly, I'd say this about Dion. He's authentic in who he is.
Okay, so all right, let's play a quick little cute game here, just because you have all the experience to play this game. Give me two names that you think might actually work down here. Viable names.
Kellen Moore is logically one of the first ones. He understands the Cowboy way. He's dealt with the Jones family, and he's had some success both in Dallas and maybe more in Philadelphia than we've known. So he logically would be the first name I would think of. I'd be a little bit outside the box to think that it might be a famous coach. The two that are out there, one more available than the other. Is there a call made to Pete Carroll? And is there a call made to Bill Belichick? And would they listen? One
Huh.
has a job, one's looking.
Okay. Well, we will see. It's certainly a fun sort of saga to follow for us down here, and really throughout the league, because as you said, we're talking about probably the most influential team and team owner in the entire NFL, in Jerry Jones and in the Cowboys.
Probably the most influential person in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah. Period. End point. Okay. Hey, Bob, thanks for chatting with us. I appreciate your time, and like I said, maybe we'll chat again once we get some legs moving on this thing.
I'd certainly be happy to talk about it. I've got to get a pop out on this right now of my experience inside a search.
Yeah.
I like to say I did a search for the Cleveland Browns, but so is everyone else.
All right, Bob. Take care.
Yep, take
Thanks
care.
again.